Hello everyone, welcome back to Spaceforedit. My name is Cynthia, and on this channel we talk about all the things that they don't teach you in design school but you need to know in the real world. Today's video is all about specification for your interior design project. First of all, we need to figure out who these documents are for. So specification sheets can actually go on a separate document or can be added to a technical drawing pack. So if we are talking about flooring finishes, it can be a separate document, or that information can go on an actual drawing itself. It will make sense later on as we talk through the video. And who are these documents for? These documents are mostly for the trade and the design team. So these are builders, these are decorators, these are architects and the design team. Clients don't usually tend to kind of get involved in this much specification and are not that involved in like the proofreading of the drawings or the spec sheet. If you're creating something for your client, then it will be more like visual presentation or like actual physical finishes that you will present to them. But it's a general practice that interior designers do. We add the specification to our projects because it's a very important part of it. There's a lot of work that we need to put into. Okay, so what can be specified in an interior design project? Well, if you just start to look around, then you will see that basically everything. Let me actually quickly take you around and just point out to all the things that if this space was designed by an interior designer, well, it kind of is, but at the same time, this is not an official job. But let me just take you around and show you what little bits you would specify. I'm going to use my phone camera, so I don't need to mess about with this. Hey, welcome to the creative mess. So let's say, for example, sofa finish, fabric, specified by interior designer. Cushions, decorative elements, specified by interior designer. Artwork, and clearly someone has forgotten to specify that artwork, by interior designer. Fabrics and shears, curtains, upholstery, specified by interior designer. Table, specified by interior designer. Hey, perfect example, finish of a mantelpiece that I have forgotten to, I've not forgotten about it. It is very much still, it's very much still happening, but so paint samples, specified by interior designer. Furniture, interior designer, decoration, wall, coverings, paint, by interior designer, lighting by interior designer. And now I'm actually looking around as well. I can see the kitchen unit, kitchen appliances, specified by interior designer, doors, door finishes, door types, ironmongery, so any kind of detail. What else? Light switches, everything. Flooring, I forgot to mention flooring, rugs. So all the elements basically that surround the person in the space can be, not always is, but can be specified by interior designer. So we have a few categories to go through. Mostly the same things apply to each category, but there are some specifics that are maybe only specific for fabrics in comparison to wall finishes. So I will take you through category by category and just point out the things that you would have to specify on these documents or on your drawings for your interior design projects. The first one, let's tackle wall finishes. So these could be either paint, wallpaper, maybe some bespoke vinyls that are more likely to happen on commercial projects, or even a bespoke mural that you would go to an actual artist to do for you. So what information do you need to gather for the specification documents? So for paint finishes, here I've got a Dulux fan with me. You will obviously have to specify the supplier, so who's supplying the product, the code for the color, whichever you like to go with, whether you have trade palette or you have something that you get in the store, everything right down to the T. Make sure you do not miss out and make sure you do double check. Then paint also have finishes, so whether it's matte, whether it's with a sheen, whether it's eggshell, whether it's waterproof, or maybe it's exterior. All of that information you can access on the supplier's website or even speaking to your reps. So don't feel like you kind of have to magically figure out and know all of the specifications. I will talk about this in a bit as well. Reps are the ones that we rely on and we love them and we are very grateful for them. A specific note that we often leave on these documents regarding paint is how the surface should be prepared for install and how many coats you should apply and how it should be looked after afterwards. This is again something that you are not supposed to magically know. You can find that out in the user manuals, and obviously the number of coats is usually 2, sometimes 3, but usually it's just 2. It's more like common sense and more like covering your backside, and this will pretty much apply to everything that we talk about today. It's really just covering your back and making sure that it is foolproof. For wallpaper, it is a very much similar story. I'm just gonna grab this one. I've got probably an outdated book over here because I've not really updated my books in absolute ages. So, wall coverings, what have we got? Let's take this one for example. So same goes for wallpapers as well. We need the supplier, we need the collection code, and we need maybe the pattern / color spec as well. And all of that you can always find on these cards, or on the back of the cards, or on the front of the cards, or on the internet. Alongside that information, you also need to specify where does it start from. Sometimes wallpapers are installed up to dado rail height, or maybe just starting at dado and going all the way. And if it's obviously full height, then it's going to be full height install. So this is where drawings come in. If we think that we have some wall paneling up to dado height and then we have wallpaper above, we will need an elevation of that, an explanation, more notes, more details. So it makes sense to have all of this information on an actual drawing with floor plan, with elevations, with more detail, with notes and all of that. So it can be a separate document, but most likely it will be on a detailed drawing. And again, same applies to maintenance and application. So maybe you want to specify what kind of glue should be used if you don't want to go with the manufacturer's or the supplier's suggestions. Maybe your project is kind of environmentally driven, so you want to use products that are more like eco-friendly. But if that's not the case, then obviously you can just say to install as per manufacturer's guidelines. Okay, put in this back. And then we have murals and bespoke vinyls left. As with everything that is bespoke, you have to include a lot more information, and specifically it is color specification. So whether you are referring to RAL colors, whether you're referring to a specific supplier for paint that the artist might be using. This is obviously always discussed during the design process. Rough idea of dimensions, so overall dimensions. If it's a wall vinyl, let's say it says something like that quote that you always see, but first coffee. So let's imagine that that's a vinyl print. So where is it going to go on the wall, how big it is overall, and again we are going back to the fact that something like this should probably be included in a drawing. Something that's worth mentioning regarding vinyl is a note of who is going to be preparing the surface and whose responsibility is to make sure that the team can arrive and start their work. All of this little information is very, very crucial because all of these costs can really add up and throw your budget right out of the window. It's happened before. You don't want it. This is not a good position. Why did I decide to do this? Okay, furniture. Let's talk about furniture specification. This is where our suppliers come in. Personally, I rely a lot on my furniture suppliers when I'm specifying anything for a project. They know their stuff. They know all the ins and outs about the product. So why shouldn't I trust them to do that job and take that responsibility off of maybe my to-do list? So first of all, you will need the product code. If you want to go extra mile, you can add the image of the actual product, but usually reps know what you are talking about. Then you will need to know quantity. So how many of each are you looking for? And this is so crucial. If it's a big project and you need 15 armchairs and one armchair costs 500-600 pounds, then there's a big difference in those numbers if you specify 15 or 17 chairs. Then you need to specify the finishes, so anything from the frame, from legs, whether it's wood or metal, to the upholstery if it's an upholstered chair. If it's not an upholstered piece of furniture, maybe it's just stained, so you need to specify all of that detail as well. And then if there's different variations of the product, you need to specify the size of it. So for example, for coffee tables, this collection could have a smaller version of it, or a higher version, or even a lower version. So you need to make sure that you specify those details as well. Furniture is something that's very often done on a technical drawing. So you would have your table with all the information that we just discussed, and you will have the quantities there, and you will have a specific code. Let's say if it's a table, then it will be T1, T2, T3, T4, and so on. Chair, CH1, CH2, and all of these little codes you will place on the actual drawing itself, so it's easy to reference it straight away. Now this can also be done on a separate document. Some designers do that as well, but the most common way is to include all of this on a drawing sheet. Next we have lighting. Lighting is very similar to furniture because it's like this separate piece or element of interior design of the whole scheme. So all the usual things go with it: product code, finishes, whether it's powder coated or not, whether it's got like a bespoke RAL finish, the sizes. Again, you could have a collection of similar pendant lights, but they come in different sizes, so you need to make sure that you specify the right size. The specific thing about lighting is making sure that you specify the right lamp type. So what type of light bulb will you need? Is it just going to be something from standard, or maybe you're going to have something a bit more design led, like those Edison bulbs? What's the light color tone? Is it cold or warm white? And also, what's the lumen levels that you want it to be, and is it dimmable or not? All of this information is quite crucial for the electrician who's going to be installing the lights, so when they receive this information, they know what they need to prepare on site, or they know what they are dealing with. Let's quickly touch on equipment. This is not something that I'm too familiar with because there has always been a department that deals with that. So if we think about, let's say, restaurant kitchen or a front of house counter, so all of that equipment that goes in there, cooking equipment, dishwashers, fridges and things like that, has always been specified by someone else because they are pros at it. But there is some information that we as designers had to pass on to them. So it might be a RAL finish or specific height. So usually the same things apply for specifying equipment as well. Quantities, finishes, model type, model code, photos of the equipment if possible. And something quite specific is also the wattage. How much power does this piece of equipment require? And usually the equipment piece can actually have two documents. One will be like a separate document where it's just information, and then the other will be a reference on a drawing sheet where it's got all the codes on it, any extra information. So this can actually double up. And then we have flooring. I have a flooring book here from Antico, not sponsored, but same really goes to flooring samples as well. You need to know the collection, the specific kind of color combinations or pattern. And for flooring, sometimes you might have like a specific pattern, and I'm just thinking what I could show you. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but there are specific types of patterns that you can do, whether it's fishtail, herringbone, like you can see there. And when it comes to sizes, usually flooring tiles or planks are available in different sizes. So all of that information you can always find on the books. Let's see where it's here. So there's like I don't know, you probably can't see, but there's like a big table there. You can also always find this information online or from your ref and add it to your specification sheet. Flooring also usually has different depths. Sometimes the collection have different thicknesses, so if that's the case, you would add that information on as well. One little extra note that you might want to add to your flooring spec is the prep of the subfloor. Some floors are very dodgy, most likely all of the floors are quite dodgy. So do you need screeding? Do you need leveling out? Do you need some kind of an underlay? So all of that information needs to be specified along specifying your flooring. This is why it's a lot more easier to add that on a whole drawing sheet rather than on a separate document. And the last thing is bric-a-brac items. Now, you might not call this bric-a-brac items. I think that is just something that commercial designers have kind of picked up and we just use it on day to day, but basically it's all the little styling items. So anything from artwork on the walls to shelfy moments, whatever you're going to be decorating them with, all of those little items also need to be looked at and need to be documented. Also any foliage that you are specifying will be included in this as well. Whether it's faux or real, it needs to be documented. So as with everything else, you will need to know the quantities, the product code, the overall heights of the items. If it's artwork, then any specific product codes or like specific frame finishes. And usually this is put on a separate document, so not on a drawing. But if your project requires that much detail, or maybe you need to go in a lot more detailed explanation, then you can put that on a drawing and refer to in which area that will be going. Again, it's just foolproofing everything and making sure that you include all of that information so there's no surprises when it comes to install day. Okay guys, that is roughly it. So you can by now tell that all of the information, like I mentioned in the beginning, it kind of repeats itself. Quantities, codes, specification, RAL finish, color code, but there are some specifics to each material, each finish or furniture piece that is specific just to that category. One little tip that I can add on to finish off the video: when you are saving, for example, fabric samples, this is saving it on your computer when you're doing the research. Whether you're saving fabric samples, whether you're saving a photo of a furniture piece, always in the title of the actual file, name the supplier and the collection. So later down the line, when you are trying to gather all this information and put it on your drawings, you already have that information and you don't have to think like, oh, what was this and where did I place that sample and where was that from? It's a lot easier for you later down the line and you can be a lot more productive. Okay guys, my legs are in pain. Needles and pins and needles, what did they say? I'm never picking this angle ever again. But I hope you found this video useful. There will be more future videos talking about specification, and I will be going through kind of category by category if you wish. And we also have a little collaboration coming through with Swatchbox. If you've not heard about them, then you will in the upcoming weeks, as I went down to London to see them and to learn more about what the company is about. If there's anything specific that you want to know about specification process, let me know in the comments. I will be doing a future project where I'm going through a drawing pack step by step. So I will be including all of this information, talking about the process of specifying. So that is definitely coming up. It's just a big project. So keep your eyes peeled and just sit tight for it, because it's quite a big deal to film and create an interior design project. So just bear with. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure you check out the other videos, and if you want to connect with me on a more one-to-one level, make sure you follow me on Instagram. But if I don't see you there, then I'll see you in the next video. Bye.